Hello, and welcome to the Wildcard Rewind show. This evening, I'm your host, Hannah, and as usual, I'm joined by my two wonderful co-hosts, Paul and Mags. Another crazy weekend of NFL in the books. Let's get right to it and hit rewind on week 4.
I just want to rewind to when we were young at heart. Back to all those good times. Take me back to the start.
Great. So here we are. Week 4's in the books. How are you doing, Mags? We had a great day yesterday in London. How's things with you?
Man, I gotta admit, so tired. We're just saying off air. Rushed back from the game, got to see the entire game in London. Got to meet you, Hannah, which was absolutely brilliant. Got to meet you in person. Got to meet, Luke as well. Absolute legends. Hopefully you're listening, Luke. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks again. Brilliant time. It was amazing. But man, I thought I wasn't going to make my train to get to the airport in time. And of course, I get to the airport in time and then my flight is delayed and then it's delayed again. And I end up getting back to Edinburgh at about 1 a.m. So very, very tired. But my energy's picking up. Hearing that intro music has got me riled up and ready to go again. So I'm ready to rewind some week 4.
We're ready. We missed you yesterday, Paul. Gutted you couldn't make it, but you still enjoy a good weekend of games?
Yeah, I did. I was suffering from this really rare condition that's called FOMO. So I stayed off Twitter and everything and was very jealous of everyone that was in London. I hope everyone had a good time, and it was a cracking game to see as well, to be fair.
Yeah, it's just so great having games in London. I know the Americans get a little bit upset about it. They have to get up early, but it's really nice for us. It's great to have it across here and see everyone enjoying it. So without further ado, why don't we get into week 4 and our predictions? So let's start from the beginning. Let's start with Thursday night football. My Bengals beat the Dolphins 27-15. I really wanted to be super happy and braggy that we beat them, but I just couldn't really because of Tua's injury. But Mags, you predicted that the Dolphins would win. Unfortunately, you were incorrect. Must be the first time in 4 weeks, I'm sure. And you predicted that Chase was going to get under 7 receptions, which was in fact correct. He only managed 4 in this game. So what did you think of the game? And what did you think of Tua's injury and how things played out?
Yeah, I mean, we said it on here last week that it is deeply shocking that, boxing and the UFC have a more stringent concussion protocol than the NFL do. If what happened to Tua last week happened in a boxing match or a UFC fight, that person would not be allowed to compete again for weeks. And Tua was thrown back in minutes later to continue taking injuries. And then what we seen last Thursday was kind of like collateral damage based upon the lack of care that was put to him, the week before. And now we just really hope that, he sits out and he actually gets the time he needs to recover. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be months and months and months, but he does need time to recover and ease himself back into it. And, the injury aside, which was obviously horrible, the game itself was actually, people forget maybe, it was quite a good game. I think, the Dolphins could have won it if they didn't have, Terry Bridgewater at quarterback. But I did think it would have been Operation Stop Jamar Chase, which is why I kind of predicted that under 7 receptions. They did that really well. They kind of shut down Jamar Chase quite well. But the problem is T. Higgins is, if not the best, one of the best wide receiver number 2s on a team in the entire league. He is absolutely brilliant. And they thought keeping him covered with Xavier Howard would be enough, and wasn't enough. T. Higgins had far too much for the X-Man over at the Dolphins. So I thought the Bengals had a really nice performance, and it was nice to see you guys, back in a bit of form again. So yeah, good game, and obviously just wishing Tua the best.
Yeah, I completely agree. That Tua thing was awful. You said you see it in UFC and boxing and stuff. You see it in rugby as well, and head injury assessments and how strict they are in rugby and everything like that. And it just feels like the NFL are a bit behind with it all, you know. But I know I've seen the NFL have actually stepped in and removed the doctor from there, haven't they? The guy that was in charge of the concussion protocol area. They've actually removed him from the Dolphins. So it wasn't even the Dolphins that removed him. It was the NFL that stepped in and went, nah. And funnily enough, I believe tonight they've announced that Tua's actually going to sit week 5.
Really?
Is it week 5 or he's going to sit the next game.
Yeah.
And it's, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, shock. We didn't all see that come in, you know? I don't think you'll see him this side of week 7, if I'm honest. After watching that was horrific, you know? It was really awful. But yeah, going to the game, I thought I kind of agree with you, Mags. It was nice to see the Bengals doing what the Bengals do best. You know, they haven't looked like that team that made it to the Super Bowl, and here they went up against a really, really formidable opponent and did what they needed to do. Jamar Chase not getting 7 receptions. He had 6 targets, so I still think they were looking for him. But I think you were right with that again. They set out. They had a plan to stop Jamar Chase, which left the field open for T. Higgins. And and let's be honest, if you leave the field open for somebody of T. Higgins' caliber, he's gonna punish you. But yeah, all in all, you did well there, Mike. To be fair, shame you didn't get the correct team. But yeah, so on to the next one, where the Raiders beat the Broncos 32-23. Hannah, you predicted a Broncos win, which was incorrect, but you did predict that Russell Wilson would have over 1.5 sacks, and he got 3 sacks. So, what do you think of this one?
Hindsight is a wonderful thing. And now I look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. I'm like, why the hell would I ever predict the Broncos to win? I'm really not surprised the Raiders got their first win against the Broncos, I have to be honest. Like, I was so excited about this Denver offense in the off-season. I was like, Russ is going to be there. We know they've got some promising young wide receivers. This really could get going. Things could start cooking. But at the moment, everything just looks so difficult. Nothing looks easy. Trying to find anything is just a chore. The only kind of bright spot on that offense was Javonte Williams. And it's really gutting to see him go off at the beginning of the second half. And now it's come out today that he's torn his ACL. So I think all of us here are really gutted for Javonte. And obviously we wish him all the best in his recovery. And we hope to see him coming out, you know, blasting next season. But rest up and hope he gets better soon. But as soon as he went out of the game, they just couldn't get anything going. After that, he seemed to be kind of the main thing that was pushing that offense forwards. Russ is just not looking the same. He's not right. And I am worried that he's kind of on that decline. And they've paid him to be this, you know, franchise QB that I'm not sure that he can be anymore. I think him and Nathaniel Hackett need to go back to the drawing board. They need to look at plays that work. They need to look at, you know, different things, because I think they're just trying too hard at the moment and it's not clicking. From the Raiders side, Josh Jacobs was absolutely on fire last night. And that just meant that the Raiders offense could just take whatever the defense gave them. We know the Broncos have a pretty good defense, but they couldn't really stop them because, as I say, the Raiders could just be patient. They knew that Josh Jacobs could get them, you know, those yards on the ground. So I think that was one of the ways that they were able to win, really, by just taking what they could give them. Didn't have to push it, didn't have to make Carr do too much, because we know that he can turn it over and, you know, not play particularly well when that happens. The one thing that I didn't quite understand was that why they did that onside kick in the second quarter. It didn't really make sense to me, because I think they were tied. It was either 0-0 or 7-0 or something. You know, it wasn't like it was near the end of the game. They were needing the points, and they just gave Denver that short, you know, short pitch, and I just didn't really see the point of it.
No.
So I'm not quite sure about that. But the last two things I've got to say about this is Max Crosby is totally legit. I think he's great. He's awesome. And Melvin Gordon seems to have butter hands this season. He was like throwing the ball to the opposing defense. And I think they might have to use him because they haven't got Javonte, but I don't think they want to. I think if they had a choice, they would be benching him for the rest of the season. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. I mean, watching the game, the first kind of thing is like, you know, good on the Raiders. You know, finally, you know, getting that first win of the season. And I mean, Javonte Williams, you just gutted for the guy, really. I mean, Melvin Gordon kind of held him out all last year. And just now, whenever Melvin Gordon looks like he might be on a slight decline, Javonte Williams is out for the rest of the season. And it's just, yeah, you're gutted for him. The guy looks amazing. He looks great. But, you know, hopefully he'll be back, you know, this time next year, better than ever. And by then, Melvin Gordon will be long gone. He'll have, you know, his butter hands will have melted and he'll be away somewhere else, right? So Javonte, hopefully this time next year will be back. And you know, the Raiders, I said last week, I said Max Crosby is the only player on the Raiders that is impressing me, and he seems to just be putting the team on his back a little bit at the minute, and he's just going right. He's been a real dressing room leader, got to the quarterback time and time again, and just looked like an absolute beast. He is, I don't know what height he is, but he looks massive out there on a field of giants. He still looks absolutely huge. His arms, whatever length his arm is, he's got disproportionately big arms, even for a big guy, and he just uses that really, really effectively. So I was really impressed with him. And Raiders look pretty good, but actually, coming from my biased Chiefs point of view, right? These two teams were worrying me at the start of the year. I'm not that worried anymore, actually. But neither of them look that great. So that's pretty good news overall. And Paul, you had the predictions of the Cowboys and the Commanders. So you went for a Cowboys win. We had to give you some layups, right? You were behind. We had to give you some. So the Cowboys win, definitely. And then this one, I actually can't believe me. I got to be honest. We said, will Micah Parsons get to 3 sacks or more? You said, yeah, because Carson Wentz just gets sacked all the time, right? He didn't have a single sack. I can't believe that, right? What did you think of the game?
So you say you're giving me these layups, but spoiler alert, you give me a really, really horrible one later, and that's no layup, okay? You'll see when we get there. But
I can't remember.
Yeah. Micah Parsons not getting any sacks. For some reason, they did the Commanders O-line decided, do you know what? We should try and protect him. You know, if Micah Parsons gets to him all game, he's not going to come out of this game doing well. So they actually didn't get many sacks at all. I think it was 2 sacks in the whole game. Yeah. So the Commanders actually stepped up a little bit there. This was a pretty dull game, to be honest. I think the Cowboys dominated the game in a defensive way from the off. They never really let the Commanders play at all. They kept Carson Wentz contained, and they did really well. You know, Trayvon Diggs, the guy, I love him. I actually love him. I love to watch him play. I think he's amazing. That interception was I just love him. I just love what he does. But my big question about this game is, how bad are the Commanders? They look awful. They just can't get anything going. And the Cowboys are not a team that anyone's going, oh yeah, the Cowboys are doing really well this year. Yeah, okay, yeah. Cooper Rush is actually 3-0 in 2022, and he's had a decent start, but they don't look like a team. You know, you look at the Dolphins and you go, wow, they're really good. You look at the Cowboys and think, it's the Cowboys. They're doing what they need to do, but the Commanders look so bad. They look really, really bad. And I actually think that this is them looking into next year, and I think they're kind of maybe tanking a little bit, and they want one of them early picks in that draft next year. Carson Wentz is not the future there. You know, how many different QB changes have we seen over the last 4 or 5 years? You know, maybe they're looking, going, you know what? We want one of them elite QBs next year. Let's go and get ourselves an early pick. But one player that really stands out for me every week is Johan Dotson.
Yeah.
The guy is. Do you know what? He's an incredible wide receiver. And I remember people, Rich Cooley more than anyone, they were saying like there's 6 elite wide receivers, and some people weren't allowing that in this class, and they were adding Dotson in. He was adding Dotson as that 6 elite wide receiver, and I'm watching it now, and I'm going, fair play. He is elite. He is elite, and I'm excited to see where the future takes him. But all in all, I thought it was an average game, and the Cowboys did what they needed to do. Give me a point. Hannah, what do you think?
Yeah, I love Dotson too, but he also has an injury and he's going to be out for a couple of weeks, which is a bit gutting. I think it might be a hamstring. So this week seems totally brutal.
Everyone else is injured this week. Why not?
Totally brutal. But I 100% agree with you on the Commanders poll. I think they are totally shocking, particularly on the defense where they shouldn't be. They on paper have talent, but they just cannot seem to get anything decent out there. The one thing I will say about the Cowboys is that when Cooper Rush came in for Dak, I was like, this is it. Cowboys season is over. You know, they're never going to do anything. They're going to lose loads. But to be fair to him, he's done pretty well. And surprisingly, he's 4-0 as a starter. He seems to have managed the game pretty well. He gets it to where it needs to go, and they're still winning. So hats off to him. I think he's doing pretty well, kind of steering the ship. He's no Dak, but, you know, I think he's a very good fill-in, and he's doing much better than Wood.
Don't tell anyone, but I think the Cowboys look better with Cooper Rush than they have with Dak Prescott.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what happens when he gets back.
Yeah,
I think Dak is a better player overall.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the question is, I just wonder whether they try and do too much play calling wise when Dak's in.
Maybe. Yeah.
I think they've simplified it a bit for Rush, and they've, you know, I think it just clicks better. Be interesting to see anyway what happens. So the next game we have is Chargers beating the Titans 34-24. Not wholly surprising. So Mags, you predicted a Chargers win.
Yep.
Of course, correct. And then you also thought that DeAndre Carter would have less than 3 receptions, which is also correct. He only had 2 in this game.
Close.
Once again, getting double correct. So annoying. So annoying.
It was a good game. I was worried about. I was never worried about the Chargers winning. That was a pretty easy one for me there. I was a bit worried about the Carter receptions, especially after Keenan Allen was ruled out. But yeah, I just think Carter he's done well. But I mean, this game was for me all about Austin Eckler coming back and really getting rolling again and looking like his old self. And the Texans, I can't make my mind up if Davis Mills is going to get himself a job next year or not. He looks really good in some places. He had one absolutely atrocious interception. He threw 2 interceptions, but one was really, really bad. But then, he came out, he threw 2 touchdowns and he threw for 246 yards, which isn't bad at all, especially for the Texans. So I can't make my mind up about Davis Mills to see if I think he's got any kind of long-term value. But I mean, he's not really got much to aim at as well at the Texans, which is a shame. But, along with Austin Eckler looking good, Pierce on the other side as well for the Texans, he had a bit of a breakout game, which was nice to see. And then, I mean, you can go through the whole game and talk about different points, but it's almost hard to forget sometimes. I mean, Justin Herbert kind of didn't make any headlines, but still threw 340 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, how good is that guy? That we just expect that from Justin Herbert now. He's absolutely immense. One of the best quarterbacks in the league. Easy win for the Chargers. I mean, they're just so much fun to watch, especially whenever Austin Eckler's rolling as well. So, yeah, pretty good game, actually. What do you think, Paul?
I do you know what? The Chargers have done this now. They've done this for the 3rd week this season where they've got a massive lead.
Yeah.
And then they let these teams back in. And I don't know if that was garbage time and they were just, but they were what, 20 points up on the Texans at one point, or 17 points up on the Texans, and all of a sudden you were looking at the end and going, can the Texans sneak this? So I think the Chargers, if they're gonna take their team to the next level, they've got to learn how to shut these teams out in the second half. If they did it against, so the Raiders nearly came back in week 1. The Chiefs actually came back and beat them. Again.
I remember.
But no, so that's what I'm saying. You play a team like the Chiefs, they will punish you if you allow them back in. The two teams that you haven't allowed, you've let back in the game but not lost to them, are the Houston Texans and the Raiders, and they're both right down at the bottom at the moment in the power rankings. But so the Chargers really need to sort that out. I still feel confident with DeAndre Carter. I gave you 4 receptions and he got, what did he get? 3 receptions, and I think he was targeted 4 times. Yeah. And he got 2 receptions and was targeted 3 times. So yet again, he's receiving them targets. So I feel unlucky. I think I looked at halftime and he got 1 reception and been targeted twice, and I was like, he's going to bring it home for me. This guy's going to bring it home for me. I'm going to get one on Mags, but no, you got it all right again, didn't you?
I got one of my inside guys to stub his toe in the locker room at halftime.
Yeah. But yeah, so that takes us on to the Bills beating the Ravens. Oh, I've just seen this now. Hannah, you predicted the Bills to win. You got that one right. And we asked you who would have more rushing yards, Lamar or Josh Allen, and you said Lamar would have more rushing yards, and that was correct by 3 yards. He had 73 and Josh Allen had 70. So yeah, double bubble for you. How do you feel this one went?
Super lucky there, and I'm well pleased. I think this could be my first double correct, so I was well happy with that. The game, though, it felt a bit scrappy, to be honest. I don't think the weather helped. It was another rainy game. I thought this was going to be really exciting, and I just didn't feel it when I was watching it. The Bills looked unsettled for most of the first half. Allen seemed to be throwing high. The run game just couldn't do anything. They were having loads of wide receiver drops. The running backs fumbled. It just didn't feel like the Bills. Lamar, on the other hand, seemed to be playing like Superman. He was trying to get the team going and getting those touchdowns and getting them moving. It was really nice to also see Dobbins, obviously, back in the game. He was playing last week but didn't really do much. Obviously, this week we saw a lot more of him getting those 2 touchdowns, which was really great. I think for the Ravens to be a true contender this year, they need to get that running game going. They can't just rely on Lamar for that. I kind of feel like at the moment they are just relying on Lamar to do everything. And I'm hoping now that Dobbins is getting back into it, he'll be able to take a little bit of that load off Lamar and just kind of get that going a bit more. So I'm hoping that will open up the offense a bit more for them. One really interesting play. The Ravens were in that tough spot in the 4th quarter drive. So they were down at the goal line. It was a 4th down and goal, 4 minutes to go. So obviously your 2 options are you kick the field goal, you take the points, or you go for a touchdown and try get the 7 points on the board, but bearing in mind that you've got the 4 minutes left. So they obviously went for the 4th down, missed it, and then turned it over to the Bills so they didn't get any points on the board, and the Bills had it back with 4 minutes to go. It's a tough one, though, isn't it? Because you could kick the field goal. Yes, you'll get 3 points, but you've given the Bills 4 minutes, so they can easily go down and get a touchdown, so you're going to lose anyway. Or you go for the touchdown, aim for 7 or even the 8, and then you're saying, right, you need to match us now, go down and get a touchdown. If they get a touchdown, you go to overtime. If they don't, you win. So I kind of get where they were coming from here. I think it's different. If you weren't playing the Bills, I would easily go for the points. But with the Bills, you're giving them 4 minutes. You know that they're well capable of going down and getting that touchdown. I think that would be the only way of potentially trying to win the game by going for it on 4th down. So I'm kind of with it. But Mags, I have a feeling that you don't quite agree with my thoughts there.
Yeah, I thought it was really poor coaching, actually. And it's not the first time Harbaugh's done that kind of mistake as well. A couple of times last year, they had a chance, like it was kick the point after to draw the game or go for 2 and win the game. And I think it was on maybe more than one occasion they went for 2 and they didn't get it both times and they lost the game both times. And now this is kind of the same thing, going for too much, especially in a game in those kind of conditions. I think you have to just take the points. And I know it's Josh Allen. I know it's going to be hard to stop them, but they kind of been stopping them a lot of the game anyway. I think you had to trust your defense there and hope that they can get the stop on Josh Allen. And they didn't march down the field and score anyway then towards the end, did they? They didn't just march right down and score a touchdown right after. So I think they need to, trust. Like Paul, you got something. Your hand is literally up.
So just a quick question before. Did you see the roughing the passer penalty that basically moved the Bills into like field goal range, like right at the end?
Yes.
Did you see that one? Now that was an awful call. I can't remember who it was. I remember seeing it and I didn't get to talk about this game, but it just reminded me of it now. And the call was coming in because the defensive player just sort of hesitated for a second and then hit him. They threw the flag and they called roughing the pass and they got like 15 yards. You were like, that was a shocking call to me. I thought there was a bit of a harsh call and I don't think that was roughing the passer. I think the Bills got a bit of a gimme there. But yeah, go on, carry on. Sorry.
No, I think I was going to kind of say that as well. But I think the Bills got a bit lucky in this game, right? I thought Lamar Jackson was the best player on the pitch. I thought the Ravens seemed to play a little bit better than the Bills overall. The Bills running game, I mean, that's an odd. They need to fix that, I think. Like Devin Singletary is okay. James Cook, what a bizarre draft pick that was. And yeah, they've got some things to fix. But hey, they keep winning. They've got a good record. So who am I to tell them, right? So Paul, you had speaking of good records, you had the Eagles against the Jags, a game we were all looking forward to. Eagles come out on top, 29-21. You predicted an Eagles win. You were correct. But then you predicted both AJ Brown and Devonta Smith would get over 75 yards receiving. Not quite right. AJ Brown got 95 yards. Devonta Smith seems to be boom and bust at the minute, right? Only 17 yards receiving. So what do you think of the game?
This game was spoiled by the weather.
Yeah.
I think we were robbed this. I think it could have been a great game had the weather been nice. And if I'm honest, mate, I thought I saw the Jags go 14-0 up, and I thought, I wouldn't like to be in the White House tonight. I think that one's going to be a tough one to take 14-0 down to the Jags. But no, the Eagles did it. They look amazing. Let's not take that away. They can do it all. They shine yet again. And they went and got the W, and that's what makes these teams go further, where they get them rough wins. You know, it wasn't pretty. It was horrible weather conditions. They were 14-0 down, and they dug deep and just went, let's go and get it. But Hassan Reddick, that guy is a beast. Okay, he was just everywhere yesterday. What did he do? He forced 2 fumbles and recovered 2 as well. And what a beast. He's a difference maker in that Eagles defense. And let's be honest, he's gonna help him to the next level. But let's all talk about Miles Sanders. Where's he been for the last 12 months? And then he comes in with a monster day, and that's all that game was yesterday. You know, they couldn't really do much passing. That's why I didn't get that right. You know, I know AJ Brown got 95 yards, but they couldn't throw the ball that much. Wet conditions. They just run it. So Miles Sanders, I think Kenneth Gainwell got in as well. So, but yeah, ultimately, I think the Eagles did what they needed to do, and they look a really, really good side, really worrying. But yeah, Hannah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the weather did spoil the game, but I also think Trevor Lawrence, you probably need to just hold on to the ball, you know? He says, well, I don't like wearing gloves. But, I mean, every time he touched it, it was popping out of his hands. You know, I just thought him and the weather and the wet weather don't mix. But when you're a professional football player, you have to be able to play in adverse weather conditions. So I was like, T-Law, you need to get your shit together. This is no good. Like, I think one of those was the main reasons why they lost there. Like, they went up 14-0. They could well have powered on and won that. But he kept popping out his hands every 5 minutes. And so they didn't. But you can't take anything away from the Eagles. I just think they're a really great, well-rounded team at the moment. And they look like one of the best teams in the league because of how well-rounded they are. They seem to have an answer for everything. Can't run it. Can't pass it. Fine, we'll just run it. You know, and everything else. So they're looking really good. Last remaining unbeaten team. Who would have ever said before the season that it would be the Eagles? Blooming no one. So good on them.
Kev White.
Okay, yeah, maybe apart from Kev. No normal person would have predicted this. So good on them. I'm really looking forward to see what happens for the rest of the season. So before we move on to our game of the week, let's quickly recap the first London game of the season, where the Vikings very narrowly beat the Saints 25-22. So, Paul, you predicted a Vikings win. You were correct. Actually, to be honest, we all predicted a Vikings win, didn't we? So, although you were correct, we were all correct. So it kind of, you know, cancels it out, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But you also predicted that Thielen was going to get 69 yards receiving. You were incorrect, but I mean, seriously, by the tiniest of margins, because he had 72 yards receiving.
I feel like I deserve a point for this.
Yeah,
okay?
I thought
because you had the first running back and you had the first wide receiver to score a touchdown. I had Adam Thielen's yardage, and I was 3 yards off. I looked at one point; he was at like 62 yards. I was like, "He's in the bag, baby," and he was 3 yards off. I feel like I deserve a point. I tell you what. I'm going to put a poll. I'm going to put it on the Twitter, and I'm going to put a poll and see if I deserve a point. And if the people say yes, I'm having that point. End of.
No, this must be how like Dan Campbell feels after every Lions game. He's like, no, like not again. Like, deserve a point.
I'm gonna tweet him.
Okay.
The poll. Yeah. I'm gonna tweet him in the poll. I go, this is for you, Dad. This was for you. But yeah, carry on.
Fine, we're a democracy here. We're a democracy here. Yeah. We will let you. Well, yeah. Let's see. Let the people vote. See what happens.
Let the people decide. Yeah.
The thing is, they're going to give you a a mercy vote, aren't they? They'll feel sorry for you.
I know most of the people that follow this show, and they're all going to vote no.
Yeah, vote no. I'm certainly voting no on my account, the Hot Seat account, and the Rewind account. So that's the
no. My two brothers will vote no as well, just for the banter purposes, you know.
So I predicted that Dalvin Cook would be the first running back to get a touchdown, and I'm really annoyed because it was a Vikings running back, but of course it had to be Alexander Mattison, didn't it? So that's really annoying. So I got that incorrect. Now, I did these predictions this week, and I think I've got this wrong because was the prediction who will be the first wide receiver to get a touchdown, or was it who would be the first person to get a touchdown?
It was the first wide receiver, and I was trying to find out who it was before we got there, but I
think it was Justin Jefferson, I think, wasn't it?
I don't think it was. That's what he was. I thought he was late.
Well, he definitely did get one late. I'm not sure if he was the only wide receiver to score a touchdown in that game, though.
Yeah, I need to review that because I failed
Oh,
on that
It
one.
was
we're
Chris
going to go. Well, why
Olave.
don't?
It was Chris Olave. It was in the first quarter by the looks of it.
Oh, great news.
Yeah.
Sad.
The end of the first quarter, Andy Dalton passed short middle to Chris Olave for 4 yards.
He's like, oh.
Well, you know what? I still love the game regardless. You know, regardless of not quite getting that prediction right. It was great to see. You know how nice everyone was so nice and friendly at the stadium. Like loads of jerseys everywhere. Definitely more Vikings fans than Saints fan. Even though it was the Saints home game, it was more like a home game for the Vikings. I'm shocked the game was as close as it was, but you know the Vikings got it done in the end and got to see so many cool little highlights. Got to see an interception. Got to see rushing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. Got to see the gritty in person. I mean, that's pretty cool. And then got to see the Scott Hansen stoink off the bar as well at the very, very end. That was really, really cool. Lots of highlights, lots of great people everywhere as well. So I loved it.
Yeah, it was so much fun, wasn't it? I totally thought it was going to be a Vikings blowout with so many of the Saints injuries. But Andy Dalton, our old faithful Bengals QB, turning it out in London. Since he's been a backup, he's been pretty shocking, to be honest. So I was really surprised that he came out and actually managed to sustain some drives and keep them in the game. Just one thing I did notice was that Justin Jefferson, God, he is truly elite. He was open a lot. There was a few times when Cousins just took the shorter routes, but you could see that he was wide open deeper down the field and probably could have had at least 4 or 5 touchdowns yesterday. He's so good. And he had 147 yards, and that's even with Lattimore shadowing him. So he is truly elite. It was great. So let's move on to our game of the week. This has been the highest scoring game of the season so far. And who would have thought it would be between the Seahawks and the Lions? The Seahawks beat the Lions 48-45. This game was so much fun. I mean, the ball was flying everywhere. People were running up and down the field. It was just great. But let's not pretend that there was any defense going on out there. I mean, basically, neither of them can play defense. So their offenses were just going off. So it was great fun. And basically, pretty much whoever got the ball last was going to win. Everyone was just flying up and down the field. What I would say was it was really great to see Penny getting back involved and doing what he does best. It was so good to see him kind of breaking out at the end of last season after all his injuries. It's been pretty quiet so far. So it's great to see him getting going again. And I hope that continues throughout the season. I really enjoyed it. It was great fun. But yeah, there's no defense.
Yeah, none whatsoever. And you know, it was a really, really good game to watch. And hey, Geno Smith, right? He's maybe not the right answer for the Seahawks, but he's not the wrong answer either, right? He's pretty good. He's not quite that like Konami code quarterback. He's more like an Atari code, right? He's not as good, and he's a bit old, and he's a bit shit, but it's not bad, right? So he's not quite the answer, but he's playing all right. And you know, it's nice to see TJ Hawkinson having that breakout finally. You know, one of my favorite tight ends in the league, and man, how good I think we talk about this Lions O-line every single week, but they're just ridiculous. Jared Goff can make a cup of tea and then throw the ball. Like, it is fantastic to see. And yeah, we kind of talked about it there with Dan Campbell. Lions lose by 3 points again. You know, they lost here by 3. They lost to the Eagles by 3. They lost to the Vikings by 4. Last season, they lost to similar margins 7 times. That is unbelievable. They're so unlucky. That is a good team waiting to happen. They are maybe one piece away on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I think the Lions are going to kick on, but I don't know when.
Yeah, as you both said, very, very exciting game. Very high scoring. Geno Smith, he actually looked really good. Yeah. And I watched him, and I watched him flinging this ball about, and I was like, wow, you know, he's not bad. He's not bad. And, you know, to think, fantasy-wise, we all debated who was going to be the starter, him or Drew Lock, you know, and we're like, this guy is just incredible. But, yeah, like you said, Hannah, it's you know, it was no defense. It was just so bad on the defensive side of the ball that this just happened, and it was just like I honestly think red zone was just made up of this.
Yeah.
Because every couple of minutes there was one of the teams in the red zone. They were, oh yeah, they're in the red zone. Oh, another touchdown. And it was just like, what? How are they still scoring more points? But yeah, it was a phenomenal game. I really can't knock it. Very much enjoyed it, and you know that's the whole purpose of it. You know, it's game of the week is not the best teams; it's the most enjoyable game, and this one,
yeah,
I could watch it again. I could genuinely go and watch it again, and I'd still enjoy it. But yeah,
it was really great fun, wasn't it? So, how did we do with our predictions this week? Mags and I actually tied with 4 correct. Paul, you weren't far behind with 3 correct. But looking at the current season standings, Mags is pulling out in front with 14 points. I'm here in the middle at 11. And Paul, unfortunately, you're taking up the rear with 8 points. But hey, there's plenty of the season left to go. You never know. You might not be having to buy the drinks when we meet up in the summer. So our final question, which we ask every week, but we always know the answer. Did we win you any money this week, Paul?
No.
Thought not. We're not good at this, have we? Eventually, you might win a penny or two.
Yeah, eventually.
So let's move on to our hit rewind plays of the week. So here we talk about our best plays, or the plays that we wanted to hit rewind and rewatch again, or that we really enjoyed. So for me, I had just quickly 2 ones. So one was from the Green Bay Patriots game, and it was Adrian Phillips literally throwing Aaron Jones away like a used tissue to get to Rodgers. It was absolutely amazing. He just basically threw him across the field and ran straight to Rodgers. I loved it. And then, of course, I had to mention Mahomes here. He did some really awesome stuff this week. And one of my favourites was that incredible feat of kind of running out of the pocket, avoiding a tackle, doing a little pirouette to avoid someone else, and then doing this shovel pass as he was going down to CEH, who managed to somehow catch it and get a touchdown. Mahomes is just mental. Like, the plays that he can do, I still think that he is the best QB in the league. Josh Allen isn't far behind, but the stuff that he does is just like unrivaled. I think he is awesome.
What's funny about that one is he just can't do it in the Super Bowl against the Bucks, can he? And he just
he had a bad toe, remember? Bad toe.
He did have a sore toe.
My hit rewind moment was it wasn't a fancy play. It was Saquon Barkley. It was 3rd and 9 in the second quarter, and it was given to him, and he shook off a tackle, run around the outside, kept it going, got a block from Daniel Jones, and carried on going. And that to me was just Saquon Barkley keeping the play alive.
Yeah.
And it was just showing what an elite running back can do for your team. Even at a point like that, he just still managed to go all the way around and keep the play alive and get you the first down and more. So that was a moment where I was like, yeah, what a guy.
I mean, for me, the recap hit rewind, you know, it was pretty much the entire Chiefs-Bucks game, right? I could just watch that whole thing again. What a performance from Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league by miles. Like, I almost picked the one that you talked about there, Hannah, but actually the one that I loved the most was the little trick play. Andy Reid at it again. Little trick play in the red zone. Mahomes pointing, shouting over to the left. All the Tampa Bay defenders looking over at what's Mahomes pointing at. Noah Gray slips in, takes a snap from under center, sneaks in for the touchdown. Absolute genius play calling from Big Red Andy Reid. I absolutely love that. Had to watch it again just to see what happened. And then, yeah, seeing all those Bucs defenders looking the wrong way. Absolutely hilarious. So great play from a great team.
Yeah, they do have some great trick plays, wasn't it? And it was nice for you, Kansas City fans anyway, to see a bit of revenge from that Super Bowl. So let's have a look at the best of the rest and our rapid recap of the rest of the week. So first game, Falcons beat the Browns 23-20. Again, I seem to get all of these this week. just seemed a bit messy. It was fun, but just messy. Amazingly, Falcons won the game, but Mariota only had 7 completions in the whole thing. It's just crazy. The Browns just had way too many turnovers, and Njoku fumbled. Brissett threw literally straight to a defensive player on the final drive when they were trying to come back, which obviously iced the game. I think they just need to clean things up a bit. One thing I didn't kind of understand was why the Browns didn't kick a field goal on their opening drive. They went for it on 4th down. Why would you do that? It's nothing. Why not take the points? And if they'd done that, it would have been a tied game and they'd have gone into overtime. But hey, one only final thing. Where the hell is Kyle Pitts? And like literally missing in action. I was like, the whole of the fantasy world know that Kyle Pitts is really useful. They drafted him really high. But Arthur Smith doesn't seem to know that Kyle Pitts is a great player, because he doesn't seem to want to use him.
God knows. But yeah, I had Titans beat the Colts at 24-17. Quick question for you both. Matt Ryan has 5 touchdowns this season. How many has he not thrown to a tight end?
0.
1.
1. And that was his first one on the season that he threw to Michael Pittman. The rest, the other 4, has all gone to Mo Alley-Cox and Jelani Woods, both having 2 touchdowns each.
Don't talk to me about Jelani Woods, Paul. I'm not over it.
Pretty average game. I think last week I was saying that the Colts looked okay, and you both said no, they look trash. So I went away and watched it a bit. Tried to watch it from a different perspective this time, and I have to agree with both of you. Yeah, they look awful. I don't know what I was seeing, but yeah, they look really bad. Jonathan Taylor seemed to have a lot of work with no production. He carried the ball 20 times for 42 yards. That's an average of 2.1 yards per carry. What is that all about? Where is Jonathan Taylor? Maybe he's sat in the same place as Kyle Pitts. You know, maybe they've gone on holiday together. Maybe they haven't. I know he's dealing with an injury, isn't he? I think he's got a knock. He's carrying a knock. But yeah, on the other side of the ball, the Titans seem to be gaining a little bit of momentum now. They're, back-to-back wins. Maybe they're starting to get rolling. They just needed a bit of warming up. And let's be honest, we're getting to the point now where Derrick Henry sort of comes out of his shell in the winter. But yeah, and Treylon Burks is an injury. He's got turf toe, so that could be a bit of a loss for the Titans. Mag?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had the Steelers and the Jets playing. Jets come out on top. Not the best game, not the worst game. Nice to see Zach Wilson in there. Throwing some touchdowns again, catches some touchdowns again. That's great as well. And Kenny Pickett, he looks like he's going to be the quarterback from now on. The fans are sick of Mitchell Trubisky. They've spoken. It'll be Kenny Pickett from now on. So that's exciting for the Steelers, but they didn't quite get it done against the Jets. And Hannah, you watched the Giants against the Bears. What an exciting game.
I've got all of the exciting games this week. So the Giants beat the Bears 20-12. And the Giants actually had a really nice first half. They got Saquon going. And because he was going, that threat kind of opened up all of the RPOs and the play actions. And they got some really nice drives down the field, got loads of points, in the game. And then the Chicago D managed to kind of tighten it up a bit in the second half and keep them a bit more in check. But by then, the damage was already done. And to be honest, we know that Chicago is one of the worst teams in the league. That offense is terrible. Justin Fields, I'm sorry, but he's not going to be here next year. I do feel sorry for him because I do think Matt Nagy probably ruined him and his development. But unfortunately, that is him for at least a starting position in the NFL, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
So on to the Cardinals beating the Panthers. The best way to describe this game is 2 really awful head coaches calling really awful plays and being really awful. And it was just a really awful game. And it was just turnover after turnover after turnover. Baker doesn't look good. The Cardinals defense doesn't look good.
No.
The Cardinals offense doesn't look good. Everything just doesn't look good. It was a lucky win. You know, I think the highlight was Kyler's rushing touchdown. That's a design play. And I think some of these rushing QBs like Justin Fields, why are they not designing plays like that for him to get him to run in? But, you know, I don't know. The other thing was JJ Watt went into AFib on Wednesday or something and had his heart jumped on the Thursday and then still played on Sunday. So the guy is actually a machine. So, yeah. Mag, you had the Packers and the Patriots.
Yeah, this is an odd one. Like the Packers won this game, but if I was a Packers fan, I would not be happy, right? Winning 27-24 to a Patriots team with Bailey Zappi playing a quarterback, right? How do you only win by 3 points there? And Aaron Rodgers obviously turned it on at the end when it mattered, but he doesn't look right. The body language is all wrong. Something's going on there. He doesn't look too pleased, but obviously he's still talented enough to turn the game around. And that 1-2 punch of AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones is still pretty strong. And actually, the 1-2 punch of the Patriots running backs pretty good as well with Harris and Stevenson, but not quite enough to beat the Packers. Packers now 3-1, but they don't look as good as that record suggests, I don't think. Paul, you're the best game of the weekend.
Yeah, it's a game I don't really want to talk about, and I think Hannah's put this on the show sheet on purpose because she's really nice like that. I had the Chiefs, the Bucks, because I love the Chiefs apparently. But yeah, so the Chiefs won 41-31. I won't say too much about this game because we've already mentioned two of the great plays that happened the week. A couple of things. Mahomes has reached 20,000 passing yards and did it in the fewest games ever of 67. And Kelsey has passed the former Buck, Rob Gronkowski, for the fifth most receiving yards at the tight end position. That's 9,328 yards.
Wow. And he's still a million yards behind Tony Gonzalez.
Gronk is totally coming out of retirement next week, right? To get the record right.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And of course, because you've been going on about how much you've loved the Chiefs for like the past 4 weeks, I just really, really had to give you this game, I'm afraid, Paul.
I appreciate it.
Because I'd heard so much about them from you, you know.
Yeah.
So what a great roundup! What a great roundup of all the action from the week. So let's do a little fast forward to Monday Night Football. So this week, the LA Rams are taking on the San Francisco 49ers. So what do you reckon for this game then? What do you think, Mags?
49ers, I think, might upset the Rams. Is it an upset when the 49ers beat the Rams anymore? I don't know. But I actually don't think it's going to be a very good game, though.
Paul, I'm going Rams by a landslide.
That's interesting. Now, I always think, actually, Kyle Shanahan usually has Sean McVay's number, usually in the regular season anyway. They're pretty good at getting that W there. It's always intense, though. The two of them know each other so well. But I'm going to stick with what history has told me to be correct, and I'm going to go with a 49ers win. So interesting to see. Paul's predicted the Rams, so I reckon they're going to lose.
Yeah, that's about right.
But we'll see. You might be right for a change, Paul. You never know. So let's fast forward a little bit more and have a look at our week 5 predictions and preview. So, Max, this week you have the Cowboys versus the Rams. So my question to you is, who wins? And who is going to get the most combined sacks and tackles? Is it going to be Micah Parsons or Aaron Donald?
Great question, by the way. I really like this one. I think the Rams will come out on top for that one. I think Micah Parsons is going to come back with a vengeance after a quieter game this week. So I think he's going to get the more sacks and tackles against the Rams. So yeah, Rams win. Micah Parsons with more tackles. Paul, you're watching the Cardinals. Woohoo! You're watching them play the Eagles. Ooh. Who do you think's going to win? And will either quarterback rush over 49.5 yards?
Thanks for giving me this one, Hannah. I really appreciate this one. That's really kind of you. I'm going for an Eagles win.
Oh dear.
Okay, I'm going for an Eagles win. I understand they're a much better team than us, and I'm going to go for the over because Jalen Hurts has already done it twice this season. So I'm going to go for the over 49.5 yards.
I felt bad for you, Paul. So, especially because I'd given you the Chiefs this week, so I thought, oh, I better let you know.
Although Paul, by predicting an Eagles win, you've all but guaranteed a win for your team there. So that's fantastic.
That's true.
I just clicked to that. Sorry, I'm a bit slow there. But yeah, Hannah, so you've got the Chargers versus the Browns. Who will win, and will Mike Williams get over or under 75.5 receiving yards?
So I think it'd be silly to go against the Chargers here. So I've got to go with the Chargers win. Will Mike Williams get over or under 75.5? He's been a bit boom and bust this year, to be honest. But I think it's all going to depend on if Keenan Allen's back. So I'm going to take a punt, and I'm going to say that Keenan Allen will not be back. And I'm going to go with the over. I'm feeling a bit nervous about that one, but I'm going to go with it. Run with it.
Yeah.
So, Mags, here's a good one for you, especially if Gino's playing well. Seahawks versus Saints. So tell me who wins, and will Geno Smith have over or under 275.5 passing yards?
Yeah, I just don't see it with the Seahawks. So I know they won last week and everything, but there's still something not quite right there. I'm going to go for the Saints to win. Geno Smith has got over 300 yards in the last 2 games. I just don't think he's good enough to do that 3 times in a row. So I'm going to go for under on the passing there. So I'm going to go with it. Saints to win and Geno Smith to throw under 275.5 yards. And Paul, you got the Bengals against the Ravens, and this is one we thought, right, easy. It's got to get a complete layup for a point here. So who's going to win? That's easy. And is Justin Tucker going to miss a kick? Yes or no?
See what I mean? This was the spoiler earlier. Does Justin Tucker miss a kick? You know what I mean? I want to say it's an easy point, but you know what's going to happen? It's going to be windy. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be awful conditions. And I'm just going to be like, well, he's done it to me again, hasn't he? But yeah, I'm going for a Ravens win, and Justin Tucker doesn't miss, okay?
No.
He doesn't miss. So I'm going for he doesn't miss a field goal. And that takes us straight into Hannah. You've got the Lions versus the Patriots. Who will win? And which Lions wide receiver has the most yards?
So I love the Lions, but as we all know, and we've talked about for the whole show, they love to lose. And I think the Patriots are really pissed off at losing. However, we don't know whether Mac Jones is in or not. So I think with Mac Jones out, I'm going to actually flip it, and I'm going to say I think the Lions will win. I'm going for it. I'm gifting them a win. Why not? I know what's going to happen. The Patriots are going to pound the run, and they will totally win. But I'm going to give the Lions a chance. I'm going to go with that. Lions wide receiver with the most yards. If Amon-Ra St. Brown is in, I'm saying Amon-Ra. But he probably is not going to be, is he? So, who's the other guy? Josh? No, is that his name?
Reynolds. Josh Reynolds.
I'm not allowed to say 2 things, am I? Okay, I'm just going to say Reynolds because I don't think Amon-Ra will be back. So I'm going to say Josh Reynolds. So just really quickly before we go, of course, we have to preview the second London game, which is the Giants versus the Packers. So Mags, quickly for you, who wins and which Packers wide receiver has the most receptions?
Packers win. Romeo Doubs, most receptions. Paul, who do you think wins? And will Daniel Jones score over half a rushing touchdown?
Packers win, and he gets a rushing touchdown. Hannah, who wins? And Saquon over or under 125 all-purpose yards. 25.5, sorry.
Packers win. Saquon under. Green Bay are going to stop him. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This, unfortunately, brings us to the end of the show. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button and catch us on Twitter at Wildcard Rewind. and head over to our YouTube channel. Thanks for staying with us. See you next week.
Bye.